Okay, hello ceramics class. We are working today on a piece that has a visual repetition. So I've collected some stuff here. There are many ways of doing a piece with visual repetition. This is just one example. But what I've got is a rolling pin. I've got some slip or water. I've got a little marker. In the ceramics room, we've got these tubes that I've cut. But if you're at home and you want to do this, you probably have an old plastic disinfecting wipe container around. That'll work. Or even just a cup, something that's round will work. It's nice if it's got straight sides instead of it being tapered, but you could make this with a tapered tube as well. Just a little more trouble getting it out. I've also got some of my standard ceramics tools and some paper towel. So to begin, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put down a paper towel. And if I were using this tube to make my form, then I would start by putting a little mark on that tube and making a little mark on my paper towel so that I know where that starts, and then roll it until that hits again. And I'd give myself a little bit of leeway so that I've got a piece that's going to be a little bit bigger than the tube itself when I start building. And that's going to be the first thing that I do so that I know how much I have to build before I actually start wrapping the tube itself. I'm also going to take a paper towel and wrap it around the tube and just tape it on there so that my clay doesn't stick to the tube when I go ahead and put it on there. And then I got myself some cookie cutters. So you don't have to use a cookie cutter to do this, but I've got some in class that you could borrow. And of course, when you're done, throw in the bleachy water for the next group. But I'm simply going to start by taking my clay. I already got a little bit of a start on this, and I'm going to roll out some slabs. I'm going to kind of pay attention to the thickness of these slabs. I don't want them to be very thick because if they get too thick, then my tube might become kind of chunky looking. So notice that I'm moving it every so often so that it doesn't stick to the table. And I always want to check the backside. If there are cracks or things, I want to fill those things in and keep rolling. And by hand rolling, I'm kind of compressing the clay. So I might not have to compress it afterwards. But you might also want to take something like a rib or a credit card and compress that clay when you're done. So next step is to start cutting it out, and it's just like you would imagine. I'm going to take my cookie cutter, I'm going to press down. That one's stuck, so it pulled out on its own, and so on and so forth. Make sure I got the sharp side down. So I can get about 4 out of this one, and I'm going to make bunches and bunches of these. So after I make my 4, before I start constructing, then I'm going to take my clay, fold it back up, smush it back together, and start rolling out again so that I've got lots to work with before I actually start the construction process. So you can see I really need to work on the back of this one. Good thing I flipped it. Typical slab building stuff. So next step, I know how big I want to make this thing, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the bottom of the paper towel to keep things level. But I'm going to start stacking them. I'm going to overlap that first mark a little bit. And then I'm going to paint some water and slip on the next one. I'm going to try to keep these right on that bottom edge. And I just need a little pressure because my clay is pretty soft. But if it was a little bit drier, I might want to do something like slipping and scoring as well. I'm going to stack these across, continuing that process until I've got at least, I would say, 2 rows. So I did that before I started the video so that you didn't have to watch me do a whole bunch of them. But this would be a point, depending on how much time I have in class, where I could do more. I could start coming in and saying, okay, this is just the cookie cutter shape, but what if I did something more decorative, like add a little bead of clay in the middle? I can jazz it up with some texture. You get the idea. So I could make it a little bit more than just a cookie cutter by adding some detail to it. Then I could take another paper towel or a board and try to pick this up and in fact flip it so that I'm working on the back side now, or looking at the back side. And I'm going to take my tube from before, and that paper towel will help me sort of pick this up and support it while I roll around to the other side. And you can see I've just about got enough to connect it in just this one spot. So a little bit of slip. And I'm going to connect it right down there at the base, again, with just a little bit of pressure. I'm going to take off that paper towel now, and I'm going to stand this up and see if it's going to hold itself up, and it's holding itself up pretty nicely. And I could do this with it lying down as well. As a matter of fact, I think I will do this lying down. But now I've got this gap, so I can come in here and I can start going over it with a few more of these cutouts, cookie cutter cutouts, to finish off that form. And then as soon as I think I can get it to stand on its own, I want to slide the tube out. Because if I leave this on the tube overnight, the clay is going to shrink. The tube is going to give a little bit, but not enough that I would be happy when I came back the next morning, because my piece would crack. So there you have it, a quick and easy repetition piece. I could put a base on this and make it like a pencil holder or something like that. Or I could put it over a candle and it'll have little holes in it, which will create a nice lighting effect for special occasions, like when you celebrate your last day in ceramics. So have some fun, and I'll see you in class.